Nigeria, there are still many there. There are many. I believe that those people, they said that they are deep.
When you begin to hide yourself
of the business I'm doing, how to keep business, like customer business, receipts.
Hello and welcome to the program. I am Oyi Adekunle. We start with the recent revelation of an European Union envoy who said that at least 60,000 Nigerians are still stranded in various detention camps in Libya. Deputy Head of European Union Richard Young disclosed this at an event to mark the World Day Against Human Trafficking organized by the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, that's NAPTIP, in Abuja. Also at the event, NAPTIP launched 4 books to mark the occasion and had a lecture on human trafficking titled Boundaries of Uncertainties. The Director General of NAPTIP, Julie Okadonli, said the agency is taking the fight to the next level with the launch of the 4 books as masterpieces that will drive a better understanding of the concept of human trafficking. At a similar event in Lagos, parents and guardians were advised to be wary of enticing offers by people who may turn out to be human traffickers.
What we are doing in essence is to let the public know that these traffickers have their stories to tell to suit their own purpose. And when they get to the other end, they exploit these children in terms of labor and in terms of sexual exploitation. So parents need to be very aware that they are banned everywhere. They come around in the country with flashy cars, with juicy offers, and then talk a lot of stories to the parents to get their children or their wards trafficked. So they need to be aware and be educated that let their children not be so gullible. Because one, ignorance is there. One, ignorance. I talk about greed. I talk about influence of peer group. I talk about, a lot of push factors that may want children to want to leave this country to go to abroad because of the stories they were told. Parents should be aware of all these stories and guide their children and their world accordingly.
We go to communities, we organize trainings for them, we tell them, we teach them how they would identify people who are traffickers, who are recruiters. Because these traffickers, some of them, you will never see them, they are faceless. But they have pimps, they have a lot of people, they have hierarchy. They have those who are recruiters who will tell you, oh, what are you doing? You're not doing anything. Parents should put an eye on their kids. They themselves should be aware. You can't give what you don't have. You must know what's happening, what's trending in Nigeria, what's happening. There are clubs now, evil clubs I call them, in girls' secondary school. They will join those clubs, and what they do, what the recruiters of those clubs do is that they will make it look like a good club. And then what they're doing is handing them out to travelers and tourists, and they will give them 10,000 naira. They will sexually exploit them and, commercially sexually exploit them and give them money.
The National Emergency Management Agency has again received another batch of 166 stranded Nigerians from Libya, making a total of 643 that have voluntarily been brought back to Nigeria by IOM in the last 5 weeks. The latest batch comprised of 66 female adults, including 3 pregnant women, 5 female children, and 1 female infant, along with 83 male adults, 6 male children, and 5 male infants. The Senior Special Assistant to the President on Foreign Affairs and Diaspora, Abike Dabiri-Erewa, has reviewed plans of the federal government to repatriate 116 of the Nigerian migrants trapped in Libya slave camps. She said the Nigerian mission in Tripoli had traced the migrants to Osama Detention Center in Zawiya, Libya. Dabiri-Erewa added that 9,438 Nigerian migrants had so far been repatriated by the federal government and the IOM. Meanwhile, NAPTIP has also assured that the federal government will soon repatriate over 50 Nigerian girls trapped in Saudi Arabia. Once again, thanks for joining the program. We'll go on a short break now and be back shortly. You're welcome back. The Women Consortium of Nigeria is one of the frontline non-governmental organizations in Nigeria which is given to the fight against trafficking and all sorts of violence, especially against women and children. As a follow-up on the celebration of the World Day Against Trafficking in Persons, I will be discussing now with the Director of Programs, WOCAN, Morenike Omarboje. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Once again, first of all, let me say I would like to acknowledge your organization for all the good works you have been doing.
Thank you very much.
For women and children.
Thank you.
So I'll begin first by asking you, I understand that WOCAN led the first campaign against trafficking of women in Nigeria as far back as 1997. Yes. Now, 21 years after that campaign, we have escalating figures. The cases are still increasing. How much of lack of information, ignorance, do you think is responsible for this?
Well, it's a very interesting question. I will say that, yes, like you said, so many years after, in fact, it's escalating. And there are so many factors that are responsible, even though the social media has done a lot in enlightening the people, because people actually call to ask us, and friends and family, relations also ask me on a personal note, are these things really true? Are girls, being deceived into prostitution and all sorts of, slavery-like, exposed to slavery-like conditions in developed world and in Europe and other parts of the world? And, it's like, is that true? Because social media has done a lot. Those days, it was worse. There wasn't anything like that. So people do it secretly. And when it happens, when they get back, everybody has that fear of, don't tell the police, because if you tell the police, it might get out of hands and all that. So now there is an awareness, yet it is escalating. One of the factors that we believe is making it to escalate is that Nigerians still have this upside down thought of believing that when they go to the other side, the grass is always greener.
But why don't we have records? Why can't we say this is the exact figures of numbers of people that have been trafficked?
When we talk about, what comes to my mind, when we talk about foreign exchange that's not bank rate, we say black market. That's exactly how this business is. It's not something that people will come up and say, I'm a trafficker. That's the work I do. Oh, I'm paying my tithes. What work do you do? I'm a trafficker. It doesn't happen anywhere. Or I belong to an association in a mosque, and I'm saying, oh, do you know I traffic girls across? So it's really a black business. It's something that happens within the dark. I tell my team in the office all of the time that as we are sitting down here and folding our hands, thousands of Nigerian women and girls are being trafficked every minute, every second, without any records. Because you don't even know sometimes how they cross the border and how they go across, or how they are flown as if they are father and daughter or husband and wife, and they are being, taken across the shores of Nigeria.
Recently, NAPTIP warned against using children as housemaids, exactly. And people fondly say that if God is going to help you, it will not come from heaven. He would send people. How do you then draw the line between being a good Samaritan and actually infringing on another person's right, a child's rights?
Okay, in terms of, taking over children, yes, we call it traditional fostering system that used to be there in those days, where your niece, who is less privileged, less privileged than your children, or somebody in your hometown, in the village where you grew up from, can be sent to the urban cities, to help you and all that. Well, NAPTIP has always had conditions regarding that. NAPTIP will tell you once they are above the age, or during the age that the laws have stipulated, I think it's 13 or 14. Once a child is that age, that child must go to school. If they're still within the age limit, if they're not in their 20s and they're past school age, any child living with you who is fostered or a relation must go to school. NAPTIP doesn't want all this house help thing again, and they're working very hard to make sure that infiltration from the borders are being controlled. But, the way you can draw the line is to ask yourself several questions. An organization like Rotary will ask themselves those four-way questions. Is it fair to all? So the questions you will ask, if you have a minor in your house, maybe your niece, because some of these extended family members are orphans. Some of them you've inherited along with your children. Are they going to the same school with my children? Okay, maybe I can't afford it. Is it just going to a school under the tree or something? Is she the first to wake, the last to sleep? Is she servicing children who are younger, who are older than her? A 13-year-old is brought into the house. She's your niece, for example, or someone from your village, and she's younger than your children, and she's the last to sleep. She sleeps at 1 a.m. She goes to school when it's second period. I know children like that. They go to school when during the second period is when they arrive at school, and all of those things. So you need to be able to draw a line with wanting to help people and actually making sure that you are not within the range, or you are not overboard in the way you are doing your things, and the child would end up being in the same situation that a trafficked person has found themselves. Because when she's the last to sleep and the first to wake, when she's the one that does all the chores in the house and your children cross their legs, when she's the one that's sweeping and your children raise their legs, then she's a slave. She's nothing else but a slave.
How about a person who is old enough to make decision for herself, say over 18 now, and would you still call it infringement of right? Because you made the decision to go with this person to wherever it is that you were lured to. I
think the law is quite friendly on those who are adults who can speak for themselves. So if you want to work as a help, like I said before, NAPTIP will not say don't work as a help, but they don't want minors to work as helps.
All right. Now, of course, in recent times, we've heard that there are newer dimensions to the whole modern slavery and human trafficking. We've heard about organ harvesting. Would you please shed more light on that, please?
Well, interestingly, Oyi, I'm not a victim or a survivor. And the very sad thing about organ harvesting is that hardly do they come back to tell the story because they lose their lives most of the time. In fact, the newest trend is that they lose their lives. But sincerely, there are people who have come back to tell the stories who, when they are being, these ones are not, this category of victims are not trafficked, so to say. They go and meet the person who will take them across the Mediterranean, and those ones are just, engaging in irregular migration, like we call it. And when they go in there, they've already, the migration person, the recruiter who is taking them through, the journey through the back door to Europe or to Libya, into Spain or wherever they are going, would connive with organ harvesters. And then they say, oh, while you are there, you passed out, and then, there was surgery held for you, you will know that your organ has been removed. So they do that. Those ones come back to tell the story. There's another category that's really deadly, because we work with a survivor who has been telling her stories. Excuse me, and she's visited us to tell us the story. She's now like one of the resources we use during our sensitization campaigns. She actually was able to escape, and they've scraped their hair. They were going to bang their heads. They had done it for other people, and they were hearing it. They were in another room where they were moving them from place to place. So they scraped their hair. They hit them on the head. They won their hearts. And then they take those hearts while they are just freshly, they've just freshly passed on. In other words, they want, hearts from fresh corpses. So those things are happening. There are also baby factories where we've seen that severally from the eastern part of Nigeria, where a lot of girls would either be trafficked or they walk in willingly for a fee. It used to be 200,000. They will give the girls, and they will carry pregnancies. They will be impregnated. They will carry pregnancies, and then the babies are sold to childless couples or trafficked for sale. So sale of babies is also something else. It's also one of the trends, modern trends of trafficking, where babies are trafficked, are sold, and when they are sold, they use them for begging. So they can pair up children and say, oh, Taiwo and Kehinde, so and so, and they are singing and doing all that every day. Those children have been sold out by their moms you know, because they claim that they need to eat.
But how is it that this is more prevalent in some states more than the other?
Because the only answer I can give to that is that everybody is creative, I mean, wickedly creative, you know, negatively creative in doing the things that they do. Maybe girls from the Southwest, maybe it may not work with girls in the Southwest. For example, why is Edo State prone to human trafficking? Because even culturally, you see that the parents are involved. The parents are saying, why aren't you also going to Italy? Why aren't you also going to Spain? Can't you see Alero? Can't you see what's happening over here? You know, oh, daddy, I can't do that because, you know, it's prostitution. Alero is doing that. What's wrong with prostitution? We're hungry, we need to eat. So maybe in other parts of the country, it may be a cultural taboo. So it may not work. So it depends on the cultural norms and social norms in those areas that's acceptable, that these inhuman people use all of the time, and you'll find that it's prone in certain areas than others.
Let's come down home now. How has the journey been for Wokon so far?
It's been a very long and emotional journey. We wouldn't believe that 23 years after, that this is getting out of hands, it's becoming a global menace. The whole world is worried about what's happening in Nigeria. A lot of things are happening. Well, the journey started, like you said, we pioneered the first campaign when our late executive director, Chief B.C. Olatero Olagbegi, went, you know, out of country for a program and heard that, as we spoke, at the time, Nigerian girls and women were being trafficked, you know, across the borders within and outside Nigeria, because we have internal trafficking and we have, you know, the external trafficking. And then she came back and she organized for a campaign to be held. At that time, there was no government agency. So she was even one of the people that were instrumental. I'm sure there were other activists, you know, from what we heard. And they gathered the government together. And I mean, they rallied round and informed the government about, you know, what is happening. And a few years after, NAPTIP was birthed as a result of that. But the journey has been that it's getting worse. I just got back from an international meeting, and over there, in that meeting, in that organization, they work with children, trafficked children, and other vulnerable children. And it was like we're losing the fight. It's like we're losing the fight, you know, and we in Wokon are saying we refuse not to lose the fight. It's something we have to keep working on. It's a very lucrative business for people at the detriment of other people's destinies and lives, because we are human rights experts. And if someone says, I like to be a sex worker, what we call prostitutes, I like to be a sex worker, then that person is, you know, engaging in sex work because that's her choice. But when people who are, you know, falsely, you know, deceived into such a thing, you know, that same night they get there, they find themselves becoming prostitutes. It's demeaning, it's inhuman, and it's very, very sad story. So the journey has really been long, and it's very remarkable to find out that, you know, we can't rest on our oars. The work has just begun with what, like I said, social media is doing a lot of work. Even some of the things we don't know, we also read them online. We go to United Nations meetings every year in New York, sometimes in Geneva, to discuss violence against women, of which human trafficking is key. And we find out that it seems, you know, to be getting worse as we are trying to, you know, Wokon is not the only one fighting in this area. Thousands of people are doing the same, and it's like, you know, the more it is getting, you know, it's increasing, you know, and it's becoming increasingly difficult to pin them down, you know, but we won't give up the fight.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just like I read in the news right now, like there are people who return from Libya with children, many of them very young. Does Wokon have any child protection scheme or anything for any of those people?
Yes. For example, these things happen everywhere. They've been sexually exploited and then they end up having babies. They didn't go with babies in their hands. Female prisoners end up with babies that they didn't get pregnant when they are there. People take advantage of people with multiple vulnerabilities because a lot of them have, circumstances that are different. Yes, we have child protection policies. We belong to Child Protection Network of Nigeria. We belong to international bodies who protect children, and what we do is also to provide the assistance according to the law for the mother and the child when they come back like that, because that will be part of the rehabilitation and reintegration package.
And so how has it been for some people who have gone through your rehabilitation
Well,
program?
a lot of them have been financially empowered. A lot of them who are still within school ages have been placed in schools. They go back to school, and through the help of kind donors, we have continued to fund their education. We are funding education of several children, and for those who have children, their children are also being taken care of. In fact, one of the schemes we had in Ogun State in Nigeria, because WOCON has very strong presence in Ogun State also, we withdrew some children from off the streets who have become, street children, and we not only took those children back to school, we made sure that they were exempted from things like PTA levies, all those things, and not only that, we even were able, through International Labour Organization, to also empower their parents. So that's not the first time we're doing things for mother and children. So we do quite a lot of that.
So how can we find lasting solutions, talking solutions now to this menace?
Well, I think the lasting solution will come when everyone is enlightened about these problems. People still have this attitude of, my children are with me at home, nobody's trafficked, thank God. If they like, let them traffic themselves, let these things happen. I've told my children they should be careful. But these things are they have ripple effects. What goes round comes round. It's getting closer than we think. Some of them come back, some of them were withdrawn or deceived from 200 level, 300 level. They are undergraduates, they get back to school and they are back with HIV. They befriend children, they befriend our children, so to say, who are there. So those things are there. So until everyone sees it as it's not WOCON's responsibility, it's not NAPTIP's responsibility alone, it's everybody's collective responsibility. Until we do that, we may not find a lasting solution. Another thing is that government needs to complement the work of NGOs. NGOs are doing a lot of work. WOCON is not the only NGO. There are so many others who are also, we're all partners. We don't see ourselves as competitors. We're working very hard to make sure, sometimes when there's nothing happening, there's no World Day, we wear our t-shirts, put on our face caps, go to the marketplaces. When we just do that. And we go to motor parks and talk in vernacular, talk in pidgin, talk to them, distribute flyers for no reason. We just do that. And yes, people who are bankers cannot do that. People who are lawyers may not be able to do that. That's not their primary assignment, but they can report cases. Over here, I grew up in Lagos. I was born and bred here. And what I see that we do mostly in the Southwest is, it's not my child. Business. It's not my business. So until all of us join hands together to make sure that we do this, and then government is committed, you can actively see government's commitment in doing this thing. Government is doing a lot. Government has done a lot. Not too many African countries. We are the first, and I think so far, the last time I checked, the only one who has an agency like NAPTIP. So government has done so much, but they need to do much more. Because when we're talking about Nigeria, when we go to African meetings, guess what they ask us? They tell us Nigeria is a continent on its own. So the population is not a challenge, but is a major factor in seeing to it that when it happens in Ghana, we'll be talking about 25 people, but in Nigeria, we'll be talking about 25,000 people.
Yes. So how can WOCON be reached? Your helpline, helpline numbers, email address?
Okay, we have 2 numbers that we can reach, and then our website. Once you do WOCON or you do Women's Consortium of Nigeria, you know, our website is there, our Facebook is there, we have a Twitter account, we have Instagram, Facebook, and then you know our numbers. I can talk about them now offhand. 0803 719 0133.
Please take it again.
I'll repeat. 0803 719 01333, and then 0803 318 8767. 0803 318 8767. Those are lines that you can call right away and report. And of course, we also work with NAPTIP and NAPTIP helplines. Also, I don't know those ones offhand, but you know, you can contact NAPTIP, you can go online and report any case of child labor. It doesn't have to be trafficking for prostitution alone. People think that, you know, that's the only thing, you know, that people are trafficked for, but you can also be trafficked for domestic servitude, people who are used as omoders, like we call them in Lagos and the Southwest, you know, all those things that people things you can report, because once they are being used anyhow, it's slavery-like conditions, and it should be reported to NAPTIP or to any of these agencies like WOCON as well.
Thank you very much for being a part of the program.
Thank you.
Morenike Omaeboje, the Director of Programs at Women Consortium of Nigeria. We'll go on a short break now and we'll come back with more information. Please don't go away.
Oh, Joe, Nigeria yiti gbogbo wa ni. Oh boy, now what for this our obodo Naija? You no say I fit choose who go rule this our country come 2019.
Who tell you say you get that kind power? Abi you get connection up here?
Shine your eyes. Yes, ke. With my PVC, I get power when no connection fit give anybody.
Hey, the guys, you mean I'm say with only PVC I fit choose ampo, senator, governor, and even president?
With my PVC, I fit vote who I want, how I want it, and when I want it.
Nah, uche dikwa no kwa sense dey there. But you mean now?
Yes, ke. Anywhere you dey, whether na for office, for shop, or even if na house, as long as you don't reach 18 years, make una alele go get una PVC, because this country now we all know.
This message is powered by Good Governance Ambassador of Nigeria, Gogan.
Now, did you know that the federal government has extended the whistleblowing policy to human trafficking cases? To this end, NAPTIP has developed a portal to enable whistleblowers report activities of suspected human traffickers and corrupt officials, as well as get rewarded. Note that all communication on the platform is strictly confidential and highly monitored. To blow the whistle, visit www.naptip.gov.ng to fill the form. Also, to report any suspicious activity in your environment, you can contact NAPTIP on their toll-free line. It's 0800 call NAPTIP. That is 0800 2255 627847. That's where we draw the curtain on this episode of the program. Remember, you can watch previous episode on our YouTube channel, at youtube.com/TV360 Nigeria. Many thanks for watching. I am Uyi Adekunle. Bye for now.